Super Dangerous Dungeons is a platformer released on November 18th, 2015 by the same developer behind giants such as Heartstar and Total Party Kill. A remake of one of their first games, Dangerous Dungeons, it's available to play on web, Android, iOS, and Steam. Its unique level design and vibrant color scheme attracted players from all over, and with the built-in time trial feature with achievements that reward the player for minimizing deaths in that mode, it's no wonder that it became one of the most prestigious world records to hold in the small but dedicated mobile speedrunning community. Although there are 6 dungeons available to play through today, being the grass, water, fire, golden/electric, sand, and ice dungeons, the focus of this video will be the grass dungeon, as it's the very first and by far the most popular category for this game. Its purpose is to serve as a tutorial to ease players into the game's controls and mechanics. Don't let that fool you though, as some of the strategies later on are sure to blow your mind. To start off, there's definitely some records that went unrecorded or unsubmitted to speedrun.com in the early days of this game's existence, but I wasn't able to find any evidence of speedruns predating what's archived on the site, so apologies if I've ignored any important information. With that said, the very first record was set by DS777 Fighter on December 21st, 2015 with a time of 2:22:89 in-game time. Video of this run did exist, but their entire YouTube channel got deleted, wiping the footage from existence. I didn't download it unfortunately, so instead, let's analyze the best remaining recorded time of that era, a 2:23:86 by Pink Pie. Some of the strategies used were actually ahead of their time, like weaving around the wooden platforms in level 1, and fearlessly jumping from platform to platform on level 10. Both of these techniques were featured in DS's run, so it's pretty clear that it was an inspiration for Pink Pie. You might have noticed that both of these levels have keys that unlock the exit door, and every level except the boss follows this level design. Some levels also have boxes you can push around to either gain leverage or press buttons which unlock gates, such as level 2, 3, and 9. Other levels have levers that you can activate to unlock gates like levels 5 and 6. The gameplay is quite intuitive, so I probably don't need to explain much of what's going on. What you do need to know though is that platforming is the key to saving time. Some levels don't have cycles like levels 2 and 8 and the boss, so saving fractions of a second from each jump will accumulate and can save a massive amount of time. Other levels that do have cycles can potentially save further cycles by platforming quickly. But even in the cycled levels that are maxed, such as levels 1 and 7, fast platforming will save time anyway. That of course means reducing airtime between jumps. I've said platforming a lot, so I think you get the point. If at first you don't get speed, platform again. Before we continue the progression, you should know that in the time trial mode, people can restart indefinitely only in this first level since the timer will reset every time it happens. That's not a property shared by all dungeons though, just additionally, golden and sand for some reason. Otherwise, exiting the time trial mode entirely is the only way to reset. I should note that on mobile, there's a forced ad to unlock access to the time trial mode again. Being obligated to watch an ad between attempts deters a lot of people from running this game, but you can pay a few dollars to both support the developer and to get rid of ads permanently. You can't just turn off Wi-Fi connection either. The game needs to detect that an ad has been watched before unlocking the go button. It's pretty annoying, but the game's addicting to run, so at least for dedicated cheapskates like myself, I can overlook this aspect of the speedrun. I just thought I'd warn you about the forced ad component in case you decide to run this game for yourself. Moving on, the next record would be set by someone going by Solid Snake 702 a whole year and a half later on May 26th, 2017. This wouldn't be the last unrecorded record either, and screenshot proof did contribute to some controversy down the road, but for now, Solid Snake was officially on top. They would improve the record 2 more times within the next few days, bringing it all the way down to a 2:19:47 on May 29th. Many of these early records were not recorded, so I'm just gonna quickly list most of them here. Not all runs were unrecorded though, as top runners of this game were keen to prove their legitimacy without question. Remy, or Remy, the one who pushed the time all the way down to a 2:14 by July 2017, had a 2:21:76 from a month prior with proper video proof. Mobile runs, also known as Karate Boy 02, would showcase a 2:20:46 on August 14th, and then he would achieve a 2:15:43 2.5 weeks later. This run documents all the strategies that allowed Remy to obtain a 2:14, including a faster level 4 cycle, risky level 6 movement, and decently clean platforming in the boss level. Karate Boy wouldn't allow for the world record to be unrecorded any longer though, so on September 7th, he would perform this run. A 2:14:69 was insanely good for the time, and it was all thanks to Karate Boy's superb platforming. There was even a platform skip in level 8, avoiding the need to lose momentum. This was performed by doing a nearly full height jump, but low enough so that Timmy, our fearless adventurer, didn't hit the ceiling. The boss's individual level time was just barely a sub 32, setting the standard for future runs to come. Since the boss is about 3 times as long as any other level in the grass dungeon with absolutely no cycles in sight, it truly is the ultimate test of skill, and if you're on world record pace, composure. The run would stand for 2 months until a new batch of unrecorded times made their way onto the leaderboards. A 2:13:97 from Dark Lord 27 on November 11th, then Remy would barrage the community with a flurry of personal bests. A new name was right alongside him, Jairul.
Oh my fucking god, yes! Let's go! Oh, he called it. Yes.
He's made a name for himself in Trackmania nowadays, but it turns out Jairul is the younger brother of Remy, so they had a little sibling rivalry going on. Together, they hunted for new strategies and cycle skips, as well as supporting each other while grinding for better times. Evidently, it paid off to have this kind of dynamic because on February 22nd, 2018, the older of the two would upload this. With how tight the cycle is, it's unrealistic to expect it to be used in runs, but due to the nature of the platform movement, it also doesn't lose any time at all to attempt, so runners now had a potential time save of roughly 2.5 seconds. That wasn't the only discovery made though, as a runner named the Apple Man would discover a very risky, but very fast cycle in level 10 on March 8th. The caliber of platforming that the top runners could achieve at this time was optimal enough to theoretically nail these cycles, and the possibility of lowering the record by several seconds at a time was getting more realistic by the day. A few days later, on March 12th, Apple would achieve a 2:11.83, nailing the fast 10 cycle he had found in a run. The run wasn't perfect though. There was hesitation at the start of level 8 and the boss. The reason for this being is that buffering inputs during the level fade-in does not work. Every single time you see Timmy moving right away once a level loads, the runner has timed the input well. In some levels with cycles, movement isn't strict enough to punish suboptimal initial input timing, like in levels 4 and 7, but it is definitely mandatory to master in top level play. Apple's new record proved to others that going for such a risky cycle so far into the run was worth it, and it was actually required now to beat him. Jairul would set a small personal best with the 10 skip on March 21st, and then Remy would beat Apple on the 22nd with a time of 2:11.16. The run was still unrecorded, but he had graduated from archaic screenshot proof to a video of the end screen. With the current state of the run, evidence like this was already frowned upon, but little did we know he would destroy that time 3 days later with this run.
Oh my fucking god, guys, this is the first. I missed some things, but that was just huge. My heart was beating at like 200 BPM or something, I don't know. GG myself, and good luck.
How the hell did Remy manage a 2:08.26? Well, remember the level 3 skip? Somehow, he had managed to land that in a run, and keep calm enough to close out one of the most legendary speedruns in mobile game history. As you may have already guessed, the run was not recorded yet again, so that would remain as the evidence for the Grass Dungeon world record until one very fateful day.
Go sub to 20.
I don't think I can. That run was so close to perfect.
LOL.
Unless world record uses strats I don't know about. I'll watch it now. I haven't actually seen it, lol.
You can't watch world record.
World record vid was taken down.
It doesn't have a video. Yay.
World record doesn't have a vid. But you can also take a photo of the screen which cannot be photoshopped as a proof. What does it mean?
Basically, the rule is saying don't cheat.
You need a video for sub, please.
Allowing photo proof is dumb anyway, as piano tiles prove.
Supermod is breaking the rules.
That's why the one has no video.
Yeah, because he cannot record while playing. His phone cannot handle it. Get a better phone. How bad is it? LOL.
Point a webcam at your phone.
This Remy guy, I don't believe him any of his time.
Petition to take down his time. He is on the server, I'm pretty sure. Well, yeah, but he's fair playing. I saw him doing multiple world records, and he just got very lucky with getting the level 3 skip. Yeah, but he cannot handle recording and playing, and he didn't record this one. He should have. If he wasn't a moderator, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Everyone has a second phone to record every attempt, it's well known. Still, the rules shouldn't be changed because his phone is bad. If he wasn't a mod, this run would be rejected in an instant. There are set rules for this shit.
He's lucky it was accepted at all, to be honest. Lol.
He verified it himself. He's the only active mod. It did not get accepted.
Oh, what?
The others must be dead.
F.
Still, the rules shouldn't change for one fucking person that happens to be a mod. His rules are simple, and who cares that much for this game to cheat on time? Still, it is very possible.
Lots of people would. It's a lot more than most mobile active games, lol.
Try for other runs. Yeah, active runners mean nothing. I say his run is taken down. It is not our fault his phone can't record. Record with a damn external camera if you have a problem. Also, this rule is completely bullshit. A convincing proof is required, not be photoshopped as proof. But you can also take a photo of the screen which cannot be photoshopped as proof? Like, what?
Hello.
Hey!
Don't want to read everything. What's the matter, guys?
We're discussing the legitimacy of your SCD grass run.
Yeah? I did this run a long time ago and couldn't record it at the time.
I understand that your phone is bad. I know it might be legit. But if you have phone problems, recorded with an external camera. A screenshot is not enough. And even with their little video thing, accessing the game's code is really easy. I say your run is taken down.
Yeah, I understand.
Hey! So to make the leaderboards more fair, we've made an important change. Now all runs, as long as they are in the top 5, are required to have a video. Any lower than that, and it would be nice if you provided with a video, but it is not necessary. That means screenshots are allowed. If you are wondering why there are runs at the bottom of the leaderboard that only have a real time, they are runs that were previously in the top 5 but only provided screenshot proof. I didn't want to delete anyone's run, so I just did that, like Laramie told me. This change has mostly affected all the categories besides the grass dungeon. Now, the top 5's times are lower, making them easier to beat. Now you have even more of a chance to get that place you've always wanted on the leaderboard. Good luck!
On December 30th, 2018, after 9 months of being uncontested in Grass Dungeon, a new wave of activity in the category brought suspicion upon the unreasonably fast world record. As they say, great times require great proof, and the evidence provided was extremely underwhelming. So after mounting pressure from other runners of super dangerous dungeons, Laramie would completely archive on the leaderboard not only all of his runs, but all runs without proper video documentation that would be positioned within the top 5. Nowadays, it's generally accepted that Remy's world records were legitimate, but back then, people were really fed up about having a record with proof that was basically useless. Remy faced the situation with grace and understanding, and he was already retired from Grass Dungeon by this point, so the legacy he left behind was one the community had to try to beat. This whole leaderboard shift meant that the record reverted back to Apple's 21183, and many people started to do attempts trying to achieve it, now that it was orders of magnitude easier to beat. But one person was particularly keen on taking this opportunity to snag the record before anyone else could. That person would be none other than Remy's brother himself, Jairul. He made the mandatory shift to record runs, and officially initiated his grind to hold the world record. He wasn't alone in his grind for the world record though, as you'll soon see. And so, the era of tangible video proof begins. Remy himself calculated that the sum of the individual level records came to be in the 206 range, meaning there was some decent leeway between the interim world record and the current theoretical max time. His 208.26 stood for 9 months, but the community didn't completely die in that time span. Rather, new strategies were developed and people were just taking their time catching up to him. Jairul found this cycle in level 6 on February 22nd, and people were only starting to use it in runs now. Similarly, Appleman discovered you could fall through the crumbling blocks in level 8, just as they broke instead of needing to accelerate from a standstill, saving a few tenths of a second. With the abundance of new techniques and a general improvement in the level of movement that runners could manage, Jairul wasn't the only person contending for the world record. I myself climbed the leaderboards within the past 2 months, and had a 213.54 to my name, which included a shocking death in level 10. Jairul was close behind, with his personal best being a 214 flat, and his recorded best being a 215.73. Our battle would come to a climax, though, when I performed this run. I would pull off the choke of the year, landing the level 3 skip in a run, but completely fumbling level 10. That was incredibly devastating to experience, as the pace was in the 209.1s, assuming an average level 10 in boss. But I wasn't going to let that choke deter me. I would beat Apple's world record by a whole second the next day, netting a 210.79. This run wasn't my goal though, I wanted a sub 210. Jairul was also hot on my tail, and any of us could break through at any point. In fact, he would set a personal best of 211.88, a mere 2 hours after I achieved my new record, being a contender for one of the first speedruns performed in the year 2019. I would fall just short of my own record in the afternoon, 14 hours after Jairul's run, and then he would drop this run only an hour later. Jairul had finally managed to obtain the Grass Dungeon world record, bringing the record back into possession of the sibling duo. But less than an hour after that run was performed, while it was still uploading to YouTube, I broke the sub 210 barrier with a 209.60. This run did not have a level 3 skip. Also, the hesitation in the end of level 6 disappeared after practice confirmed I was likely not to die to that scary spike. Overall, I was getting really good at platforming, which is where most of my time save was coming from. 3 hours later, I lowered my time down to a 209.56, and despite having run grass all day, I wasn't done yet. 2 hours after my 209.56, I performed this category-killing speedrun. A 207.69 meant that Remy's controversial world record was beaten with definitive proof, and the battle between myself and Jairul would cease. He would continue to grind for a run with level 3 skip, but didn't manage to close out any promising paces, unfortunately. Due to the record officially being so close to the sum of the individual level world records, there was only one thing left to do: push the sum down. There was one major problem to the advancement of the speedrun of Super Dangerous Dungeons as a whole though. The Ice Dungeon would be released on March 27th, and with its new mechanic of frictionless movement, came entirely new physics to the game. Timmy generally moves slightly faster, making previously punishing cycles trivial. I would achieve an unofficial 207.11 within this time, proving that the game needed to be fixed. Luckily, after some communication between the developer and the speedrunning community, the physics were universally reverted to normal on May 24th, and the best theoretical time was now 203.95 from before the physics change. The physics drama sparked a new wave of activity for the game, and Music Croc, one of the best There Is No Game speedrunners at the time, consulted me for Grass Dungeon analysis and unknowingly discovered a new Grass boss strategy. Of course, I had to implement it in an individual level run, and I pushed the boss record down to a sub 30, bringing the theoretical best to a 203.43 by late May. Another one of the best There Is No Game speedrunners at the time, Gianni Blood, happened to pick up Super Dangerous Dungeons during this period. He would quickly rise up the leaderboards, reaching a 211.71 before the update. Once speedruns were considered valid again, he would pick up the grind for the world record, and achieved an incredible 207.34 on May 26th. Half a year ago, he had beaten another one of my records that I was really proud of, my 347.5 in the mobile version of Ting. So I didn't plan on letting him keep the record for very long. So 3 hours after Gianni posted his record, I responded with a 206.88. That time did not last for very long though, as just 5 days later, Gianni would go on an absolute tear, setting 3 personal bests within that week. It just so happened that all of them would be world records, so let's go see what he accomplished. By June 7th, 2019, Gianni would set the very first time in the 205 range, garnering a 205.93. This run was a culmination of all the strategies known at the time, as the theoretical best was only 2.5 seconds lower than this, and it was essentially all-time gate from optimal platforming. There was a glimmer of hope though, as compared to the individual level record, Gianni lost around an entire second in the boss alone, and I was relatively qualified to make up for that loss. But Grass Dungeon is a very punishing category, and I quickly lost motivation to play after Gianni had crushed yet another one of my proudest accomplishments. We were both already leagues above the other runners, so it was truly difficult to lower the record down any further. The run would last for a long while, surpassing the reign of any previous world records. By the start of 2020, the leaderboards looked like this, and Appleman had a formidable new personal best of 206.27 set on August 9th. Gianni would stay as the champion of Grass Dungeon, however, and the individual level front wouldn't change much either, having only been improved by a total of 1/3 of a second. The category would finally see some explosive activity though, when I fell sick in May of that year and received an abundance of free time. Seeing as I had the best solo individual level sum, I knew I was capable of taking back what I had earned in the past. It had been nearly 11 months since Gianni's 205.93, and the community was due for a new record. So I mustered up all the energy I had while being ill, and got a 205.28? How in the world did a time that lasted for so long get beaten by such a substantial margin? Well, it had also been 11 months for me to develop my platforming skills, and during my de-rusting sessions, I got more and more comfortable with doing individual level caliber platforming inside of a full dungeon speedrun. In the span of a week, I had single-handedly lowered the record by nearly 2.5 seconds, bridging the gap between the theoretical best sum and the full category time. By my 203.58, no strategy was left excluded, and there was a second of leeway between perfection and my run. I had effectively killed the category, and now the community really needed to lower the individual level sum through new strategies or new cycles. Luckily, there was a resurgence in activity for Grass,
and people decided to grind the individual levels to possibly catch up to me. Sukuboy would discover this quick key grab in level 2, but I took it a step further and included an extra jump to accelerate down the passage quickly. Speaking of level 2, I would discover that dismounting off of the block in the first half wasn't necessary a few weeks later, and that's pretty much as optimal as that level gets. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. I managed to get the first ever time in the 202 range on July 7th, and it featured the very first sub-30 boss in a full dungeon run. In fact, half of my time save over the previous record came from the boss level, so I set a new standard for platforming that day, while everyone else also accomplished sizable personal bests of their own. So it was overall a very busy period for the SDD community. There's one last strategy that I have to talk about, and it's equally as groundbreaking as level 3 skip was back then. On July 15th, I was hunting for strategies as one does when the record is almost unfeasible to beat again, and that's when I stumbled upon level 9. With level 9, it's quite an inconspicuous stage, pushing a box through a set of moving spikes with 2 corridors that are affected by its cycle, and then a straight shot to the exit door. Seems simple enough. And for the longest time, no one had ever thought that it wasn't already maxed in terms of its cycle. But after studying the spike movements for a brief moment, I noticed in the middle corridor that the first and third spikes shifted slightly further up than the second spike did, and the second spike shifted slightly further down in the bottom corridor than the other 2. At this point, I was just grasping at straws for a new strategy, and I figured it couldn't hurt to dedicate a few minutes to experiment. So I started walking under the spikes without pushing the box at first, and that was fairly trivial. So I added the box. I was able to barely squeeze under the third spike without slowing down very much, but I was clearly still too slow to make a faster cycle at the bottom. The fact that the second spike distinctly moved down just that much further was too tempting for me to ignore entirely though, so I decided to just throw myself at the spike and see what happens. I guess that's possible then. A strategy like this in the third last level, you're just asking to throw the run if you go for it on world record pace. So the record would stay at a 202.97 for a month and a half. Not because I implemented the level 9 skip. Oh, no way I was gonna do that just yet. I would get a 202.94, which added the now optimal level 2 strategy. Well, kinda. And also included a mind-boggling 29.59 second boss segment. Such a small improvement was not enough to get me to stop playing though, so I kept grinding. Despite my status as the best player in the world at that point, that didn't keep me from choking runs. Obviously, that didn't deter me, as choking runs is a natural part of the speedrunning process, so on September 9th, I would perform this run. It started out like any other run. I was familiar with the level exit times I wanted to pace in order to continue a run, and entering level 8, this was a pace I'd been on a few times before. A third of a second ahead of the current record was what I was aiming for, but then disaster struck. A notification. Now, any normal person would probably keep playing as normal and disregard the pop-up, but I was really annoyed that something like that covered a quarter of the screen for a non-negligible amount of time. So I did what I normally did if I wanted to throw away a run I wasn't happy with that still made it to this point. I went for level 9 skip.
What the actual fuck?
Entering level 10, my nerves immediately shut up. I never thought I would actually hit it on a good pace if I only went for it when I wanted the run to die. I knew I was roughly 1.5 seconds ahead of the record, so I needed to pull off the clutch of my life if I wanted to move on from this category. I hit the level 10 cycle, but nearly missed the last jump. I was now an uncontrollable mess of adrenaline and disbelief. Muscle memory was pretty much the only thing that could help me now. That fumble on the boss staircase cost me roughly 2/3 of a second, and I was not happy. I still haven't watched Dune to this day. Despite how unsatisfied I was by the new record, it was still an improvement by 8/10, so I phased away from Grass for a bit. It would take 2 more months for me to return attempting to get a run I was reasonably satisfied with, so I managed to achieve a 201.66 on November 19th, and even though I completely missed the key in level 5, I knew I had time to save in the boss anyway and continued the run. Also, gave me another reason to go for 9 skip. That's where the record stayed for a while, despite the notable mistake and still not being completely happy with it. During the month of May in 2021, the leaderboards now looked like this, with many new names holding top positions. The Remy's time had fallen out of the top 5 by this point, so his run was reinstated to its proper rank. I was still far beyond everyone else, both because of skill and the level 9 cycle that no one else dared to implement. That missed key grab in my record had bugged me this entire time, and I decided enough was enough. I made one last effort to perform a run I was happy with, and on the 22nd, I would achieve a 201 flat. It was essentially the same run without any noticeable errors, but now I had a new problem to be bothered by. Being as close as possible to a 2-minute run without actually getting it. As far as the community would know, that was where the record would stand until November 1st, 2021, when I unveiled a 200.67. But actually, I had accomplished this feat only 4 days after my 201 flat. The reason why I kept the barrier-breaking run a secret for 5 months was because I planned to hoard it until and release it for the web handheld and mobile-a-thon that members of the community had organized. Long story short, the host had scheduling conflicts and the marathon fell through, so I decided to release the run. I had been teasing other top runners about a sub 201 the entire time, so the catharsis of the entire community when everyone found out it actually happened was pretty rewarding to experience. This left only one goal in mind: the sub 2 milestone.
So imagine the nerves. Imagine the nerves getting a pace fast as that.
People have always doubted the possibility of a 159 being possible. Despite the individual level sum being 159.20, it always felt like the unreachable end goal of Grass Dungeon. One such disbeliever even put up a bounty for sub 2. Not your typical bounty though. The reward for a legitimate 159.99 or lower is making him eat a sock. So if you're both a sadist and a masochist, that bounty is definitely for you. Even with this added incentive, however, my 200.67 would stand, and stand, and stand, and stand. It would surpass a year on top, and would almost make it to 2 years if it wasn't for one individual. The final speedrunner of note in this progression is a person that goes by SXK, also known as OK3487. He developed a liking to super dangerous dungeons since surfacing in the community in mid-2020. After taking the world record for some other dungeons, Grass was a natural next step. And that is where the current record stands, a 200.65 by SXK. As of today, the individual level sum stands at 158.74, and a runner named the Sunshard has the best solo sum of 158.74. So there is definitely still sizable time save available, but it takes a certain type of person to lose the vast majority of runs to the third last level in a game as dense in movement as super dangerous dungeons. And once again, the only time save left is up to optimal platforming. Even a runner as dominant in the individual level front as Sunshard only has a 201.85 as its current personal best, so until the run becomes more bearable or consistent, it's unlikely there will be any major breakthroughs. As far as we know, there are no more cycles that can be saved in grass, but that's what we thought before the level 9 skip was found. So even if the progression ends here for now, so close to the sub 2 threshold, we've come a very long way since the game's release. And if every once in a while we get a surge in activity, I'm confident we can make Koala eat that sock. Until next time, I'm Theon C, and thank you for watching.
Thank you.